A disability is something that has a major impact on your life.
Every disability is different.
And it's never the same thing for two people. I am blind in my right eye totally and partially sighted in my left eye.
I was 18 years old. We were traveling way too fast on a gravel road. Broke my neck, my back.
My Asperger's syndrome and my cerebral palsy.
I have anxiety and depression. People would have no idea just talking to me.
Being independent means different things to different people.
I want to live in my own house. I want to pay my own bill.
Live independently and not rely on other people.
When someone is not able to live as independently as they can, it does have a detrimental effect on people's physical and mental well-being.
It's no complicated thing. It's just that people with disabilities want to be included.
Plenty of people get stuck in ruts when they feel like they can't overcome something in their life. That's where Lyft comes in.
Living independently for today and tomorrow. Lyft. We help people of all ages and all types of disabilities find the resources or acquire the skills to live as independently as possible.
We serve the southeastern 18 counties here at the Billings office. We have a variety of things that we offer. We can help with grant funding for adaptive equipment.
Maybe a home modification so they're able to access their home. We help people to find that funding.
Helping people apply for Social Security benefits.
Medicaid, Medicare, housing.
They have a peer support group. Peer support, I think, is key.
Sharing life experiences is one of the most powerful things to help people who might be new to disability, who might be struggling with their disability.
Youth transitions is kids that are transitioning out of high school. They need to learn those adulting skills. It might be rent an apartment, learn how to grocery shop, budgeting.
Help someone advocate for themselves in a school or an employment setting. One of our biggest strengths is providing folks with information and referral. If we can't help you, we hope to know who can.
A lot of times we'll have a potential consumer call in and they think that they just have one need, and it turns out that we end up finding 3 or 4 things we can actually do for them.
You can just come in and say, hey, I feel like I have this going on. Can you help me? And we can, which is so cool to me. I love that.
Most of us on staff at Lyft have identified ourselves as having one or more disabilities. That is helpful in many cases.
It's easier to empathize with someone when you yourself have struggled with a disability.
This is what we specialize in. This is who we are, and this is what we do.
And it costs nothing to go to Lyft. It's a nonprofit organization and they're there to help.
Somebody that was a consumer that was working with Lyft was asked to do an art project. He visualized that the balloon helps to lift people up. And then it became the logo, and it's stuck.
There's been success on all kinds of levels.
It's really rewarding to have a consumer go, hey, I was able to do this by myself today.
We want people to live their best life as independent as possible.
Live as everyone else in society and live as a part of society, not apart from society.
Everybody needs help. Sometimes you just need a little more help, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay.
There's plenty of life to live still, and there's a way you can do it. Keep chipping away at it, little by little by little.
Knowledge is power. Let's share it, for crying out loud.
Send us an email, give us a call. We'll do our best to help.
We can definitely help figure out what your needs are and get started on that. We're one of many steps in the path to independence, and we're happy to be serving people here in the community. Hello, and welcome to Living Well in Montana. Living Well in Montana is a program provided to you by Living Independently for Today and Tomorrow, or LIFT. LIFT is a Center for Independent Living here in Billings, who serves the southeastern 18 counties here in Montana. We advocate for people with disabilities and try and help them live happy and independent lives in the community. Today we have with us Rusty Logan from Met Transit, and Rusty's here to talk about some new and exciting changes that Met Transit is going through. Rusty, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Rusty, would you tell us a little bit about your title and what it is you do for Met?
So I am the transit manager for the City of Billings Met Transit System. So I oversee the entire transit division. We're part of the aviation and transit department within the city, but all the transit going on, it's pretty much, it's my show every day. So I'm the one that oversees all aspects of it, from operations to funding to outreach to development and everything such as that.
Wow, busy guy.
Yeah, it's keeps me busy, but I enjoy it a lot. And it's amazing how once you get into transit, before I started with transit, it was kind of like, how do people ever get excited about buses? Now it's like, now I think about buses all day long. So it provides a great service to our community, so it's something that I'm passionate about, and I really do enjoy it.
That's wonderful.
On a daily basis, so.
I know, as a person myself living with disability, and many of us, transportation is a really hot topic for us and a really important part of our daily lives. So we're glad you're here.
Well, thank you.
This information is valuable. I'm super excited to have everybody hear about these changes, and I'm going to let you get started. So will you tell us about, is it your 5-year plan?
Yeah, so it's about January of 2022, we kicked off a 5-year development plan for Met Transit. Actually, it's culminating a lot sooner than 5 years here, but that's generally the time frame that we're looking at when we're doing short-term transit planning. So we kicked this off with a consulting group, SRF, out of Omaha, and Dowell Engineering here in town actually helped us with this plan. So how we did this is initially started with a community-wide survey. I believe we got about 450 responses on that from the entire community, both from transit users and non-transit users. And from there, we started developing plans for how to improve the transit system. We actually leaned on some data from around 2020 as well, because we'd done a previous community-wide survey at that point, which got an even bigger response than this one. I think we had 650 responses to that too.
Wow.
So
Okay.
we heard pretty loud from the community that they wanted to see some improvements to the transit system, that the current system was not necessarily meeting their needs as far as convenience goes, as far as hours of service went, as far as connectivity and so forth, and even just usability on the system. So within that planning process, we put together we actually had a steering committee that was formed of not just Met Transit staff, but also representatives from the healthcare community, from the human services community, both with the community that serves individuals with disabilities, as well as senior services, school district, and actual urban area surface transportation planners from the Metropolitan Planning Organization. So with that whole group together, as well as our data that we gathered from the survey, we then started putting together a route restructure plan for our fixed route system. In support of that, we did have 3 public meetings, community-wide meetings that we held, primarily at the library is where we were out in that community room, and initially discussed what we were seeing from the survey, how we compared to other transit agencies for cities of similar size, and really then started developing plans to improve that connectivity within the city. So 2 other meetings happened after that, where we started showing our initial plans and then really had finalization with the public for question and answer, and getting final feedback from them before we took it to the approving bodies. And we then did presentations with the city council, with the county commissioners, with the planning board, going through that approval process that we're required to with the federal structure that we have in place as far as supporting surface transportation. So that final approval of that plan did happen in October of 22. We felt like we got pretty good feedback from the community throughout that process. We advertised those meetings everywhere. We were on TV. I was doing interviews then at the time. Radio commercials. We had a huge boost on our Facebook and social media pages.
Great.
We did pop-up meetings at the transfer centers, at community events. We were out with the chamber events. I think we might have even done like some Alive After 5 events and so
That's some
forth.
great outreach. That's great.
So we really tried to get the word out there to the community, so we really understood what they wanted from the system. So that's culminating now in execution of this plan and putting that service out on the street. So that has also been a pretty significant undertaking because in executing this now, there's a lot of changes that are coming into place with that we need to inform the public of, and we also had to put infrastructure in place to support. So primary changes on those, we're moving a lot of the system to 30-minute headways across the city. So there's actually going to be 30-minute buses that connect from Wixon, Main and the Heights all the way out to Shiloh and King on the west end. So we have two primary 30-minute routes that will connect between the downtown transfer center and Stewart Park. And then we have two circulator routes that are also half hours that are connecting a King Avenue West route and a Heights connector route. Supporting those are really some neighborhood type routes that have hourly service on them, and also some community circulator routes that are staying within those regions to connect to those half-hour backbones that are running across the city. So big change with it, as well as that we have consistent departure times. In the past, when you're catching the bus, you'd start at, say, 6:20 in the morning, and we'd have a 7:20 departure from the transfer center, and then we'd move to like an 8:35 departure, and then a 10:50 departure, and it really was kind of confusing as far as consistency went. So
Gotcha.
this overhaul on the system does fill in that consistency, so you can pretty much always expect the bus to be going past at, say, 25 minutes after the hour if it's going past your stop at that time. So it helps with understanding the system a little bit better and then predicting that system a little bit better so that you can use it. One of the really big changes that people have been talking about is our move away from the flag stop system, which right now it currently exists. Somebody stands at any safe corner, which is a really ambiguous way of defining a location and waving at the bus for it to stop. So to get away from that ambiguity, we've moved to a designated stop system. So we've actually installed 456 bus stop signs, I believe,
Wow.
across the community.
That's a lot.
We've moved a number of our benches to those bus stop locations as well. And we've actually applied stickers on every one of those bus stop signs after they were installed, which specifically calls out that stop's individual ID. So each stop has its individual identification number. And then it also tells you which routes service that stop as well. So more than just removing the ambiguity for riders in this move to designated stops, there was additional reasons for it. Really, when we have designated stops, if you're stopping anywhere along a route, it's hard to maintain a headway on your bus because you may be stopping every block, or you may only be stopping once within a mile stretch. So it was a little more difficult for those buses to stay on time and maintain consistency on their published schedule. So moving to a designated stop at least allows us to plan for that. The second part of that is that we can actually get improved metrics for ridership and location usage with those designated stops in place. So then we can really determine whether or not that location needs additional improvements done to it. When you have bus stops like we have right now, where it's a flag stop and everywhere is a bus stop, it's hard for us to go and justify to granting agencies for us to spend money on that specific location when it's not actually a stop that we're responsible for, because everywhere was a bus stop.
That makes sense. No, that makes sense.
So with this in place, then we can look at that ridership data, see if there's individuals with disabilities that are boarding there more often, if there needs to be more accessibility features put in place, if there needs to be a shelter put in place, or if there even needs to be some sort of schedule that has both visual and auditory announcements or something such as that in place.
That would
So
be wonderful.
moving to the designated stops really does open up a whole other world of possibilities for us to
It does.
improve
I
those
love
locations.
that. Yes.
And the one other piece on that is that when we have designated stops, it also allows us more integration into a trip planning software or something such as that for the community to use. Prior to now, we couldn't integrate with something, say, like with Google Maps, because everywhere was a bus stop. So if you were trying to navigate using Google Maps and the transit option, it wouldn't know where to tell you to catch the bus because there was no actual designated stops to tell you to go to. So putting that into place now allows us to actually integrate with some of these services such as Google Transit and Apple Maps for trip planning purposes. So Yeah, it's a lot of big changes.
No, but it makes really good sense because the technology is making it easier for us to, it makes it easier for you to document
yes.
where the most amount of riders are, where you have, yeah, I mean, it's changing the way that you're able to provide service to us. I really like it. I'm really excited.
Well, thank you. And yeah, just mentioning technology, we've had a little bit of some hiccups with our rollout, but we've moved to a new real-time tracking provider, which is Passio Go. So make sure to download that application if you had previously been using Double Map. I'd mentioned the Google Maps integration. We actually hope that that's up and running by next week. It looks like will be the time frame on that for trip planning purposes. And then we've actually added ticket vending machines at each of our transfer centers as well.
Didn't know about that. Okay.
So you can actually go to that ticket vending machine. If you don't have a transit fare card, you can purchase one there. If you do have a fare card or use the smartphone application, you can actually reload your account there with cash. Or you can actually just buy a one-ride pass or even a day pass ticket there as well. So,
Really? Okay. And those are at both transfer centers?
those are both transfer centers now, so you don't have to try and get to the Met office. You
I
don't have to
didn't know
get
that
to
was
City
a thing.
Hall
I love that.
or anything. So now it's we're just trying to make it a lot easier to use the transit system than
Love
it's
it.
been.
So in the, because I know we're going to have a learning curve. It's new to everybody at Met Transit and all our riders. We're going to have an adjustment period. Are you going to provide any sort of accommodation for riders with disabilities?
Yes, absolutely. So in these initial stages, of course, it's everybody is going to be getting used to the new system, especially all the existing ridership. So the drivers are well aware of this. They'll still be picking up flag stop passengers and so forth for at least the first month, explaining to those individuals, hey, we need you to be at this bus stop location that's down the street now to catch the bus on a regular basis. However, individuals with disabilities will continue to make accommodations for. In those instances, it's going to always be best to call the Met, let us know what your needs are, how we can help to accommodate you, because as the system moves forward, the drivers are going to get more used to just looking for individuals at those bus stop locations. So when we make an accommodation, it's going to be important that the individual who needs the accommodation is calling and contacting our dispatcher to say, hey, I'm going to be catching the Southside bus at this corner at this time, so that we can communicate to our driver, hey, look out for this passenger because they're going to be at a non-traditional stop looking to be picked up. So those will be, we'll assess each of those requests as they come in. Because, of course, along a stop is a very easy accommodation to make, but if we have to deviate a half mile over to try and pick somebody up, that gets a little bit different, and that's where we'd start discussing more of the paratransit, the Met Plus type services for an individual that would require that. But on top of the accommodations, we'll also have more materials available. We realize not everybody has a smartphone or a computer.
That was going to be my next question
yes,
for you.
And our paper maps that we've moved to, for an individual coming from a large city, it's something that they're generally used to seeing as far as the transit system goes. But we do understand that they can be confusing, especially for individuals that are used to seeing a complete schedule book that was available on the buses. So we do have those individual route maps online, but we're more than happy to print a copy and mail them to anybody that does need them.
So they would just, again, contact you guys and
Yep,
ask for that
we're also
accommodation.
setting it up. It's difficult to have copies of paper individual route maps at every transfer center, but we will have them located there. So you'll be able to just ask the bus driver or a road supervisor if they're present there to grab you a copy out of the transfer center as well. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for this transition because, yeah, we definitely know it's confusing and it's a lot of information to take in all at one time.
So does this make us, the city of Billings, more comparable to communities around us? I mean, are we looking more and more like their transportation systems? Is that what we're going for?
We're really going for usability and convenience on the system. So compared to other transit agencies that we looked at within that development plan, there was ones that really had hour plus service across the community like we were looking at before, all the way up to some communities were having 15-minute services on multiple routes. Wow. So it just depends on the level of support within that community and the level of funding, everything else that's being brought forth. So our real objective here is to, number one, make sure we're using all of the resources that we have to their fullest extent to put that service out there. But number two, start to continue to build that positive sentiment for transit, and hopefully then continue to build that system out.
I was just going to
and
ask
improve it.
that, how we can support Met Transit and what you guys are trying to do. I mean, the ultimate goal is to make it better for all of the riders,
Yes.
you know, for the community, and very usable and very, you know, friendly. How can we support you?
And it's really just using it,
Okay.
you know, utilizing transit. We've gotten, it feels like overall the community's been pretty supportive of us. We don't run into too much negative sentiment about what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish here in the community. But really the, you know, getting on the bus and using it, relying on that transportation system, it just continues to make it more of an integral piece of the city at that point. So that's what we hope to see, a significant increase in our users and ridership here moving forward. Of course, there will be a transitory stage where there's lots of confusion, but then once everybody gets
Right.
used to the system, we're hoping to see that take off.
Can you tell us a little bit? Now, you were mentioning to me while we were talking about low tech, you were talking about a video
Oh, yes.
for the schedule reading.
So we do have a tutorial on the website right now. It's a written tutorial, more or less, that gives examples of how to read the schedule, whether it's the paper map or the individual route cut sheets that we have available. But we are planning on actually recording a video as well that walks individuals through that. We hope to have that up in the coming week. It all just depends on how much time we can dedicate to it with the small amount of staff that I have.
Right.
So, but yes, we're definitely planning on branching out so that we can get more how-to videos out there. That seems to be a lot more straightforward way for individuals to consume that information, as opposed to forcing them to read through a dry tutorial that I've written and put on the website. So, it's a lot
Got
easier.
the
You
knack
can-
of this.
yeah.
You know your writers. That's
Yeah.
great.
So, yes, absolutely.
Now, so I know that for people with disabilities, sometimes the fixed routes aren't going to be the best option for them.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about Met Plus program, how it differs from the fixed routes, and kind of the function that you serve
Yeah.
for those users?
So Met Plus is what's called paratransit service, and that's actually a required service for us to execute when we have a fixed route bus system in place. So federal requirements require us to have paratransit that serves within 3/4 of a mile of any fixed route line that we run. So Met Plus, while we are required to give those rides that are within that 3/4 mile area, we do try and serve anywhere within the city of Billings city limits right now. And that is what it is it's point-to-point service for individuals who cannot use the fixed route system, generally for a reason of disability, whether it's mobility related, cognitive, anything such as that. So what that looks like is that you may need to get from your house to a doctor's appointment. Instead of having you go out to a bus stop and try and get there using the fixed route system, we send a dedicated vehicle to come and pick you up and actually take you to the doctor's office and drop you off at that door of the facility. So the way that this works is that individuals do have to apply for it. The application process includes both a pretty much kind of a self-declaration portion of the application where you tell us about your limitations and why you can't utilize the fixed route system. But then there's also a part 2 to that application process where you take it to a medical provider and they verify the information that you've provided to us. It's a limited service, and in that regard, I mean that capacity is significantly limited on it. That's why we do go through this application process, because we want to ensure that we are giving service to the people that really need it, and not necessarily people who just don't want to use the fixed route system. And it's been,
Have you had people that just don't want to use fixed route? And
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's individuals who'd much prefer that we could always pick them up at the front door and take them to
well, I guess, yeah.
to their locations.
Being chauffeured is always.
Yeah, it's more
Who
of a shared ride thing at that
Right.
point. But it is, it can be a little bit of a daunting process. We generally have an application approved or denied within 21 days of application. And there is a small window there where we do, will give presumptive eligibility to people who are coming into the community that may have been approved on a different transit system or something such as that while we're processing that application, because we don't want to inhibit anybody's ability to move around the community.
Okay.
Once an individual is eligible for that service, it's a little bit more negotiated than, say, an Uber ride, because we do request that you contact us at least 24 hours in advance to schedule that ride, and then we do negotiate pickup and drop-off times within that window as well. So if you need to get say you want to get picked up at your house at 7, but we have too many requests at that point that have already been scheduled. We may be picking you up at, say, 6:30, or we may be picking you up at, say, 7:10 instead. We do try and gear it around the time when, say, if you have an appointment, that appointment is scheduled, to make sure that we're getting you there on time for the appointment, but we may have to move those pickup times around on the backside too. We do offer what's called a will call type of service too when you go to those appointments. So you may not directly schedule a time for your ride home. We just kind of gear it around. You give us a call, and then we'll send an available van when there's an opening to come pick you up and actually complete that trip back home as well. So we try to keep it convenient, but once again, there's lots of demand for it. We've seen a significant increase in the demand for paratransit in about the last year and a half.
Okay.
Especially with some of the closures that have been experienced for support facilities in the smaller communities throughout Montana. We're seeing a larger population of individuals that really need that service moving into Billings. So that's definitely something we're wrangling right now, just trying to figure out how to keep enough operators behind the wheel and enough vans on the street to accomplish that service. So that means, unfortunately, we are being a little more meticulous with our applications that are coming in to really ensure that the individuals that are using it are taking up a spot that, once again, is needed because of that limitation based on I don't want to ride
Right.
the bus. Yeah. So.
Are there any changes you'd like to see for Met Plus, or anything that you'd like to see for that in the future? The next question I'm going to ask you is what you want to see for Met Transit as a whole in the future.
So for Met Plus, we are looking, so we actually, as part of our federal funds that we receive annually, there is some required expenditures on planning. And one of those items that we plan on looking at this year within our plans is really that paratransit eligibility process, to make sure that what we're doing with it is adequate, that we're meeting the needs of the community and so forth, and maybe looking at how we can improve that. We do have some plans in place as well to actually start utilizing a few smaller vehicles on the paratransit service.
Okay.
Looking at, it's more of like a Ford Transit size, which is like a conversion van, I guess is the best way to put that, as opposed to our big
For
body
maybe
on
passengers
chassis.
that wouldn't need a lift.
Yeah, they'll
Okay.
still be lift equipped. The
Okay.
transits will be, but they're a lot more mobile, so we can get into tighter locations. Because
I love that.
sometimes we're picking up a passenger, and it's still a long ways to go from the curb to their apartment complex when they have to walk all the way around the parking lot and through an alley and then up the stairs. You know,
It's true.
So we want to pick up a few smaller vehicles so that we can get into those tighter spaces and maybe provide a little bit closer service for those individuals that really are mobility impaired and can't make that trek even when we're doing the door-to-door or the curb-to-curb service with them. So
some new vehicles in the fleet.
yeah,
I love that.
we're running into some hiccups as far as availability, just because there's so much turmoil in the supply chain still out across the nation. There's obviously the auto worker strike that's going on right now, which will delay things probably further as far as it goes. But it sounds like they're getting that worked out. So, but as soon as we get those on, yeah, we'll definitely be blasting that out, that we've got some new vehicles in the paratransit fleet. Here recently, we did switch over our dispatching software, which has actually helped make us God, we probably saw a 30 to 40% increase in efficiency, utilizing some actual artificial intelligence in that dispatching process. So we're doing everything we can to once again stretch our resources and make sure that we're providing good service to everybody.
I don't know if many riders know, there is an app that you can utilize to schedule rides with Met Plus.
Yes.
And I don't know that many riders know about that. People I've talked to don't know, so.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of traction out of that. We do have a link to it on the webpage,
Okay.
but most individuals are so used to just calling our dispatch line and having them schedule the ride. But yeah, we do have a smartphone application with our partner on that, which is EcoLane, and you can do self-scheduling on that for paratransit as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. So, like I said, my next question, probably my last for you, is what are your hopes for Met Transit's future and how it impacts our community?
Well, we're really optimistic about this service change, that we're going to see increased utilization, increased ridership, and as I said, we're hoping to continue to grow that positive public sentiment. There's a lot of benefits to a well-functioning transit system in a community. It supports economic development. It supports tourism, because people can just get on the bus and travel around your downtown area, as opposed to, trying to park and fight to
Right.
find parking,
Oh.
those types of things. There's also, as far as what people are looking for moving into growing communities, transit is usually one of those things they're looking at because they're used to using transit where they live now. They want to make sure that there's a system that supports them when they do come in. So, those are the grand overall views of what we want to see, but really continuing to grow with the community. We do intend as well this year to start looking into a sustainability type of study to make sure that the practices that we're putting in place will continue to be sustainable for the long run, but also how do we sustain our development with the growth of the community as well. And right now, being a city department, we are operating just within city limits, but we want to start exploring different options for, say, interlocal agreements or something such as that, so we can start pushing a little bit more into what is still the urban area, but not necessarily within city limits. So that's part of that study that we're looking at this year. So we'll have probably a lot more public involvement in that as well. And then at that same time, one thing that we have to start looking at pretty heavily is the funding structure that we have in place. I keep saying we're stretching our resources as much as we can, and I feel like we've done a pretty good job of that here with the system that we're putting in place. But the unfortunate fact of the matter is that Met is still running on the same 10 mills that were authorized for us in 1978. So,
Wow.
And it doesn't go as far as it used to. We've done some innovative things to fill in some of those gaps. We brought our advertising program in-house, was that about 2 years ago, and that's really done very well for us. We've got some personnel in place that are supporting that, and that's generating a significant amount of revenue for us.
Wonderful.
And we also continue to build partnerships with places like Adult Resource Alliance, the School District 2, and so forth to provide services that they need. So we're just wanting to see Met grow. It's not only is it, like I said, it's a commuter-friendly option and topics such as that, but also it's a little bit more environmentally friendly too when you don't have as many cars on the road, because you can get those individuals into a bus, and it frees up more opportunities for some of those congested areas as far as travel goes.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
One quick one before I think we're at our 2-minute mark, so I just want to
Yes,
wrap
we
up. I heard that.
Yep.
Does Met have a training? If somebody
We do.
called and said, "Can you train me?" I do training. I do bus training for people with disabilities for Lyft. Does Met Transit have
And yeah,
training?
Thank you for reminding me of
I
that.
almost forgot.
We do have a travel training program in place. So if somebody needs specific guidance on how to utilize that fixed route system, we'll actually send Met staff out with you to actually physically catch the bus, complete one of the trips that you're going to be making, so that you can see how it's going to work, kind of give it a test run before you decide to just jump out into in the system and try and use it on a daily basis. So yeah, we directly offer that. You just contact Met and we'll get that set up for you.
Okay, so if people have questions, want to schedule some training, have a concern, how can they contact you?
You can contact us primarily through telephone, 406-657-8218. You can also visit us at mettransit.com, and you can also just email mettransit@billingsmt.gov. Any of those avenues will work for you.
That's wonderful. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, just thank you for having me on the show. We really appreciate the support from the community for the transit system, and we're excited to see where we go from here.
I love it. I'm excited too. Thank you so much, Rusty.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we will see you next time on Living Well in Montana.
All right.